So welcome back to the channel. 007 here. I have a couple videos I was going to do just with some modifications, and this will be the first one. This is on my Mid 2, the Durston trekking pole tent that I have. Love the tent, no issue with that. It's how you set it up and just a few tweaks. So I'm going to try to do this with one hand and show you, and I'm going to have to pause and come back and forth, I think, a few times, but just kind of just some lessons I've learned after 10 days out on the AT and some rainstorms and do's and don'ts kind of a thing. But the first thing I'm going to show you is how a lot of people set it up, and the issue is, and I don't have it all staked down, but I'm going to try to show you here. So you can see how much of a gap you have between the ground and the actual tent. Now, I've kind of exaggerated it right here, but I will tell you, Durston, if you go to their website, they have, they kind of show you how to fix that. The issue is, when it's this high up, when it pours rain, it'll go inside, you know, the water, raindrops come down, hit the mud, the dirt that turns into mud, and then that splashes up on the screen inside, and that becomes a problem. So it wasn't really that it got wet inside, but you have the screen on the side there, it's get all kind of mud caked on it from when it's really downpouring. So I would tell you to practice putting this tent up with it as low to the ground as you can get it. And a lot of the way I do it, I just lower my poles a little bit and pull that out some. Another big tip for you is on these right here, these strings that you have, make sure when you put it up you're about halfway. That way you have some room to maneuver to pull these in or let it out a little bit, and that can help you as well. I was these were all the way out and I was pulling it out, and then I had to pull the pegs up, and that's kind of an issue. But yeah, make sure they're halfway. That way you have some room to move it back and forth. So another thing I'll tell you on this tent, what I do, or what I'm doing now, so I have the ground cloth connected to the ends, and this is how I leave it set up. So my ground cloth is connected to the tent, and that's how I pack it up. And the way I do that, this is the ground cloth connector here, and I just put it through right here, not on the plastic. So this kind of stays with the tent, because the ground cloth gets wet, you know, when it's raining, and it's got stuff all over the bottom of it when you do that. So when I put it up when it's not raining, so you know, it's rained, it's all wet, I put this together and I put it up that way, and then when I get to my next night where I'm gonna camp, I put the tent up and I kind of let it air out a little bit. So I'll put the sides up, you know, tap them up. I only have one hand here, but I put the sides up, let the air flow through, and that's all good when you have a nice day. So if it rains 2 days in a row, it's going to be a little problematic. But another thing I do, and I'll show you on this one, and when I put the insert in, it'll become a little clearer. But so on my tent, you'll see where I labeled it 007 there and 007 here, and then on the insert I also have 007 there. Just when you're out there trying to put it together, sometimes you're not sure which side is where. Just kind of, I know all those kind of line up, and that's on the one side that I use. But so the first thing, I keep the ground cloth connected to it, and when it's all wet, I just put it all together, and it goes on an outside pouch on my tent, so it doesn't, all the dampness and wet doesn't get inside the actual sleeping part of the tent, which is where the net is. So the net, I got this because I wanted, I mean, right now, if we go inside here, when I have the tent just like this, right? The net is inside. I can disconnect the net. There's a spot up here and a spot there, and I can disconnect the net and on the corners, and then I can put it here in my backpack, and then I am basically all dry. Everything's packed up that needs to be dry. The only thing wet is the actual tent outside and the ground cloth. And so what I do is I put my pack cover on my pack, bring it out, put it under a tree somehow, and then I take the tent down and put it in there. But there's kind of a trick to that now, because what had happened was the tent has these plastic grommets, which I'll show you here. I'm going to put the inside up, and those grommets were a problem, so that's where I've kind of made a modification. I'll show you here in a second. So probably the first adjustment I've made with the actual tent is when I went camp, I thought, you know, if it rains, I'll just wrap this up and the net will be inside, but the tent will be on the outside as I wrap it up, so everything will be dry inside. That doesn't happen. So anything that's touching that is going to get soaked. And so when I put it up after packing it up in the rain the first time, so now I got a water puddle basically in my sleeping area. That luckily the day was good, the sun was out, so everything was able to dry before I put everything in. But if it's more than one day in a row raining, it's going to be problematic. So now what I do is my net inside I pack in this Sea to Summit dry bag, and that goes inside my tent. So this I know is always dry. That's probably the first part, because my plan of, you know, it's kind of nice to have this all together. You can leave the net inside and pitch it up, and it takes no time at all. It's easy. But if it's raining and if you got wet weather, that's where it becomes a problem. So let me put this up, and I'll show you where I modified it a little bit. All right, so I have the net inside, right, and I've already tied back some of it because it's kind of hard to do this with one hand. But you see where I have the 007 there that matches the double. That way I kind of know when I'm inside what I'm looking for. Another big thing on the ground cloth, it'll have this elastic strap that you put the bottom of your trekking pole in, and then the tent itself also has an elastic strap. Make sure you put those in, because that's kind of critical to keep everything there. So you can see, you know, it's got a lip all the way around. It's all good. What I ended up doing as I went on, so this tent, it has two, I'm going to take this apart just to kind of, you can disconnect there, right? And then you also disconnect there. And I have this zipped up. And then it's just your four corners that you have to connect. So what I do is I come inside on the ground cloth, have my tent there, the screen portion, and I'm basically, as you can see, so now I am out of the rain, and I hook up the two, sorry, I'm trying here. I hook up these two parts, right, one-handed here. Click that, and then I click the other end up there, and then the only thing I have left is the four corners. This is where it gets a little crazy. So there's two ways you can do it. You can leave the screen down and then just throw your net out, trying to keep it on the ground cloth where it's fairly dry, and then connect the four corners like laying down inside here, which is what I normally do. And then once I have the four corners connected, all I have to do is come back over here and hook up the net. Oh wow, did it one hand. Hook up the net there, hook up the net over here on this side, and then everything's good, and you set it up in the dry. I can't do that one hand. Here's where the problem is, though. For me, at least, the problem. When when you're hooking up, I'll try to turn this here. When you're hooking up here, this is from your net inside. I hook it up on, now that's easy. I hook that connector up on this little D-ring here. It's problematic when it's cold, wet, and your fingers aren't working right. So what I've done, that's the way it's set up, what I just showed you. So what I did, I went and got, let me pull one out of my pocket here, these little carabiners like this, and this has where you can, hoping this is on the camera all right, you can kind of lock the one end in right there. So I put that on those D-rings, so it looks like this here. So you can see the top one here with the elastic. This is my ground cloth, right? And the bottom one, yep, here we go. Let me grab it there. So this is where I hooked my carabiner, the hard part, to the D-ring, and now it's just a matter of I can't do it with one hand, clicking this on, come on, like that. Much easier to do, especially when it's raining and it's all wet. I'm trying to grab that in, see if I can, there it is. So see, now I can come in and just hook this onto the carabiner, and it clicks on, gives me more room to work. I can do it inside or outside, but this little carabiner here I just leave on the tent then, on all four corners, and that is probably my big change. It's just easier to hook up, especially, you know, when it's blue sky, you know, 80 some degrees here in Florida today. Easy day setting this tent up, got all the time in the world. But when it's pouring rain and you're trying to keep as dry as you can and keep your equipment dry, those four corners make all the difference. So that's my big change. Really happy with the tent. The net inside, now I pack separate for when it rains. You know, with the I think it's the, this is the X Mid, the Mid Pro or the Pro Mid has the different material, but the screen inside is connected to the tent, so it's not a two-part like this one is. And I really like that net separate so that I can keep it dry, because once you get water in there, especially if it's raining, it's hard to get that water to you know, if it puddles up, to get it dry when it's raining. You know, moisture in the air, it doesn't want to evaporate, and it makes it more difficult. So that's why now my tent is in a dry bag inside my pack, and I put it in separate. So that's the big change with the Durston. Still happy with the tent. It is a big footprint, bigger than most, but I'm happy with it. I can sleep inside with everything in there with me. It's all good. So hopefully that helps you out. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back on the trail here in no time.